The Salton Basin is an 8,360 square miles sub-sea level basin in the low desert of Southern California. It was actually a part of the Colorado River Delta. The delta has been filled at least 3 times in the last 1,000 years. The Salton Sea itself was formed in 1905 when massive flooding caused the Colorado River to break through an irrigation berm and flow freely into the Salton Basin for 18 months. Since then, the Salton Sea has been maintained primarily by agricultural return flows from the Imperial, Coachella, and Mexicali valleys. The Salton Sea is California's largest lake with a surface elevation of 227 feet below sea level with an average depth of 31 feet. The agricultural value of the Salton Sea is an agricultural water repository taking in the excess water the farmers can't handle or need, as the farmers flush their fields to provide water to their crops and keep the saline levels of the soil down below the depth of their plantings. It also serves as a recreation area, primarily only fishing because of its very high salinity level of 40 to 50 parts per thousand. As a result of fish stocking operations which began in the 1950s, a species of African tilapia, which itself was introduced in 1964 and continues to thrive, where others have died off, primarily due to the tilapia's tolerance of high temperature. The Salton Sea also serves as an important Pacific migratory bird flyway for over 380 species of birds. What is the attraction of this man-assisted, salty, hot, temperamental body of water whose very survival depends on agricultural runoff inflows? Take the inflows away, and the Salton Sea would soon cease to exist. Who fights for this lost sea that is seemingly doomed for extinction, no matter how briefly gallant of a past it may have had?
Part of the Gulf, and the Colorado River, being very heavy in sediments, gradually built up a delta that cut us off from the Gulf. That delta currently is about 42 feet above sea level. The water on this side eventually evaporated, and then periodically through history since then, whenever the Colorado would flood. And there's also, some of the scientists say, liquefaction from large earthquakes would create a sea here, and it had many names. Most people call it Ancient Lake Kauai now, but there's been numerous bodies of water here that were much, much larger than this one, perhaps 3 or 4 times larger than this current Salton Sea.
I first came here in 1948 when I had graduated from school, and I drove a 37 Plymouth down here with a couple of friends to the old sunken city out here, only it wasn't sunken at that time. And the water was definitely rising because we'd wade out to the homes out there, homes that were built with no permits or anything, out of junk wood. And we'd crawl up into the homes and walk around the rooms and stuff. And at that time, the water level almost was wet on the floors of them. And then that's the earliest I ever came out here.
Well, it would be a toss-up between the sunrises and the people down here. You know, the people down here are really, most of them are really, really nice. You get, you know, a couple of bad, of course we have bad seeds, you know, but really, they're mostly, a lot of them are retired, And then we have the young set that's just starting out, so we have a lot of children down here, and it's a nice mixture of people. Everybody watches everybody else's house, you know. And I'm actually one of the younger ones. I mean, we got guys that have been here since the '60s, you know. So either tried to steal from me or started a fight in here, or, you know. They're not allowed to ever back in again. I think it was '86. We found some people out there with netting, and they stopped them right away. You know, because you can't have that. This is a sports fishing type place. It's not for commercial fishing. Although I think some come down here because they take like 3 buckets of tilapia out, but you know, come on, you guys are little. You know you're eating all those fish, but they might take them back to their friends or something. But, you know, we don't have any real rule because on tilapia there's no limit. On the Corvina it was down to a limit of 2 before it died out completely. We believe that everything that's happening down here is that politicians have their hands in it. We can advise them, we can write the letters, we can do all of that. We've even taken petitions at different times, but it never does any good. It's going to be what the politicians decide to do. And if they don't even take the time to come out and experience the sea, how can they make an informed decision about anything? And then they say, well, we're going to run tests on it. Run tests. It's overly salty. Give us water, test over. Give me the $2 million that you were going to pay somebody to find out there's too much salt in it. Jeez. I mean, it was made on, really, I mean, yeah, what?
Imperial County, first of all, the water that the Imperial Irrigation District gets out of the Colorado River is salty to begin with.
And they've been testing it since 1981. They probably spent enough money on the friggin' test to have done something about it. What do they find out? It's too salty. They need fresh water. Duh.
It takes up-to-date information before something can be done. So there's always going to be studies, and unfortunately all of the money that's come into the area has gone into more studies for more current information.
And, you know, it's so sad for me just in the last 30 years to see how it's gone down, and now nobody taking an interest in it. It's just, yeah, well, when we had that big die-off, yeah, they got calls from Arizona, Nevada, Palm Springs, you know, you got to do something about this. And that was, what, 6-7 months ago. We still haven't heard anything about it. Our economical system down here is lower income people, but they've all either worked hard all their life and they decided to buy down here when the sea was pliable, when the sea was able to be used. I don't think that should carry any weight. The sea is a natural resource that must be cared for. You can't just walk away from it. And all of us have invested not only a lot of our life into it, but our money into it, you know, our time, our energy has all gone into keeping a nice community. And, you know, but politicians, they just don't get that. Well, you don't have enough voters or whatever, you know, why should I go out of my way? Well, because you want the rich and powerful. Palm Springs is bitching about the sea. So, you know, they got the monies. Yeah, so 60s and 70s, you had the Rat Pack down here, Marilyn Monroe down here. You had, you know, high rollers down here. Why? Because they loved the sea. It was such a vibrant, lively place. I mean, the weekends, you know, we had weekend warriors, we called them. They come down here and raise heck all weekend and then go home and be doctors and lawyers, you know. When they were down here, you couldn't tell what they were. Yeah, those were good times. I don't think that, I think that the biggest mistake IID ever made was selling our water rights.
San Diego still wanted that water, and to this day, like I say, they have liens on it. They want that water, and they will take it.
Now they came around and they bought all the property around the sea, but why would you buy all the property around the sea and then let the sea dry up? That makes no sense to me. I thought when they started buying, I said, good, now they know something I don't know, that they're gonna fix this. Wrong. So I don't know. I don't know. I just would like to see somebody, someplace, do something to save this beautiful area, because to me this is gorgeous. I love it out here. And looky-loos, and you get a lot of looky-loos out here. Yeah, what is that? It's water, you know.
There currently is a plan put forth by Jim Hanks from Imperial Irrigation District. They proposed a very tiny tax on water that comes over the Hoover Dam. And because that's such a massive amount of power generation that potentially could produce enough income, not just for the restoration plan, but far, far above that. So I just heard he explained the plan to me perhaps a month ago, and it sounds really good. But of course it takes cooperation from the government to agree to do that. I don't think it's possible to maintain the lake at its current elevation because of the reduced inflow. We're never going to get a source of water that'll keep it full.
They took the tailwater away. What maintained the sea and made it go up was the 1,300,000 acre feet per year. And there was a period of 10 years where it almost stabilized, where input equaled evaporation, tremendous amount of evaporation on the sea.
By bringing ocean water in that plan, the only way that would work is if you were able to take water out of the sea while you're bringing water in, because we can't afford more salt, and that would bring in a huge amount of salt. It would also have to go through Mexico, which I see as a big problem.
And back when we first started working with the Western Water Association, there's a point where the Imperial Irrigation District would have to cut it off. So what they did was to heavily flush the farm fields to push the salts down into the tile areas. All of our farmland in Imperial County, way down underneath this tile, and that pushes the salts down. That gets into the tailwater, into the New River or the Alamo, and enters the sea. So was a technique they had to use so the salts didn't build up around the roots of their. I thought it was great how they had to handle already salty water from the Colorado River.
The lost cause myth was developed after the Civil War in the South as an attempt to explain and justify their loss to the North. Religious ideology was heavily employed in order to argue that, although the South suffered a military defeat, it nevertheless achieved a moral victory. The sheep that so foolishly and willfully strayed is not only recovered and restored to the flock, but rejoiced over, as if the recovery were a great gain. This example of unconditional forgiveness can be characterized with the awareness that the people of the lost sea may owe their salvation to the seeking and pursuing.